Joining us as always for our JAWS webinars, Elizabeth Whitaker, technical writer from Vispero. Challenges. Well, there are many challenges I alluded to at the beginning here, but PDFs have long been believed to be inaccessible, and with very good reason, as anyone who's tried to read one with JAWS knows. Some of them don't read at all. Some of them read strangely and read, something from one line and something that's unrelated. And we've just never understood why that is, but it's been that way. Many PDFs are not created with accessibility in mind. That is an understatement. Untagged PDFs are a pain to navigate. The stories we could tell. Our learning objectives. So we're going to learn 3 keystrokes to open the Accessibility Setup Assistant. We're going to contrast the differences between tagged and untagged PDFs. We're going to give you 3 types of content identified by JAWS in tagged PDFs. We're going to understand how to use optical character recognition on inaccessible PDF documents. So we may not get rid of every bit of frustration today, but we're really going to help you out as much as we can, because as bad as it's been at times, it has gotten a lot better. And to get us started, let's turn it over to Elizabeth.
All right. Thanks so much, Paul. And thanks again to APH for having me back. I always enjoy these so much. So, Paul, you are absolutely correct. PDFs have been frustrating for many reasons for a long time. And I want to point out here that no 2 PDFs are created alike, and that we're not getting into PDF creation today, but I do want to say a few things. There is a lot to creating an accessible PDF, and you can use Accessibility Checker in Adobe Pro, but there are still other things that you have to do beyond that. So it can be a frustrating experience for the user. It can be a frustrating experience for the creator. So, if you do run into any issues with that, or you want to know more about what to tell people when they're creating PDFs and things like that, definitely reach out to us, because we can get that information for you. We can get that to you. And, like Paul said, it's come a long way. Because for years we've been accessing PDFs, and there are a lot of things that happen, and I hope to clear up some of these things for you today. There are a lot of things that you'll encounter when you're reading a PDF, and you may not really know exactly what's going on or what's causing that. So I'm going to cover some of those things today and try to explain some of that. So like Paul said, today we're going to just do a quick overview of a PDF. What is it? Why do people use it? I'm going to talk about using Adobe Acrobat Reader Accessibility Setup Assistant. That has a lot of settings in it. I'm going to demonstrate that for you. Tagged versus untagged PDFs. What are they, and why are tags important? What do they do for us? We're going to read PDFs in Acrobat Reader versus the web browser. Talk about why that's important and how to change those settings. And then finally, I'm going to show you a way to read PDFs that are not accessible to you using Convenient OCR. And while this is not, perfect method, depending on how the PDF is created, it really does bring some accessibility there. And for some PDFs, it works really, really well. So we're going to talk about why that is as well. And I'm going to show you how it works. So just a little overview of PDFs. PDF stands for Portable Document Format. And PDF files are easily shareable. They're easy to download. A lot of people like to have them on their websites. They can't be easily modified. You can't change things in them. Once you've created them, they are what they are, unless you had the software to modify that. You can read them in Adobe Acrobat Reader DC, which is free. And there are some other programs you can read them into, but Adobe is the main one that we use. And you can also read them in a web browser, like Chrome or Edge, or web browser. PDFs are commonly used, of course, as we know, in the workplace to share information in schools, like you guys were talking about earlier about the textbooks, and articles and manuals, technical manuals, things like that. And many PDFs are accessible and they can be read with JAWS. But when you do encounter an accessibility issue, there are some settings you can go in and you can check and change to try and make things more accessible. And for those that are inaccessible, most of the time, the reason for that are oftentimes the ones that are just completely inaccessible. You open it up and it says empty document. And I'm going to show you what happens with this too. But those are usually images that were scanned. And then the image, there's text, but it was usually scanned from a hard copy, for example. And so that is seen as an image because it was the way it was scanned. And so while there's text there, JAWS or any other screen reader can't access that text because it sees that as an image file. So we're going to talk a little bit about, how when you encounter those files, what to do when that happens. So PDFs that are created as image files, include information that is sometimes not arranged correctly. Also, inaccessible PDFs, another reason for that is what's called reading order. And I'm going to show you what that is. But if the reading order is not correct, then you can encounter some issues when you're trying to read those. So you can access these files using those inaccessible files using JAWS Convenient OCR, which we've talked about in the past, we've demonstrated, but it's a really powerful feature for accessing things like inaccessible PDFs. So let's move on to using Adobe Acrobat Reader Accessibility Setup Assistant. And I'm going to talk through this and then share my screen and demonstrate this to you. So the first time that you run Adobe Acrobat DC, with JAWS, if you're using JAWS, the application will detect your assistive technology. It knows that there's a screen reader there and it'll display the accessibility assistant. And it'll come up and ask you, there's a dialog there that asks you if you want to change certain settings, what you want those to be, or do you just want to go with recommended settings? And you can use it to set your accessibility preferences when you're reading PDFs. Now, just like any other dialog, you're usually going to navigate through this using the tab key and then your arrow keys when you're making choices and things like combo boxes. And you can select options in different categories and change those settings. So some of the items include that you can change your reading order. There's an option to read the entire document or only visible pages. There's an option to reopen the document at the last viewed page and open the accessibility assistant with, it's actually in the, I think it's the edit menu. You can press Alt-E for edit and then Y for accessibility. And then you can right arrow and arrow down to the accessibility assistant. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that for you now. And there's also preferences that I want to show you. You can use preferences to also further customize your reading experience. And you can access preferences in the edit menu, but you can also press Control and the letter K, and that will access preferences. Now, before I get into this though, before I demonstrate, let's talk a little bit about some of these options because these are very, very important when you're navigating through the accessibility assistant. So, like I said, the accessibility assistant comes up when you first start Adobe or when you install it for the first time. And it recognizes that you're using JAWS, but you can also get to it at any time. So if you're having difficulty reading a PDF and you think, okay, I need to go in and change some settings, it's a great way to go in and change those settings. So the first thing that you may encounter with a PDF. Now, when you open a PDF, that is untagged. And we're going to talk about tagged versus untagged and what that is. But when you open a PDF which is untagged, which is a lot of them, unfortunately, but when you open it, you'll have a start screen that gives you some options there. So you can choose to have that start screen come up every time, or you can choose for it not to. I personally like to have it come up every time, just so, you know, I may not want the same settings for every PDF. But the first thing you're going to see there is something called reading order. Now, when you're using JAWS or any other screen reader to read a PDF document, it may not read in the logical order that it is visually displayed on the screen. And that can be very confusing. You know, if you're working with a student and you can see that PDF and it's not reading correctly, that can be really confusing. It can also be really confusing as a JAWS user or any screen reader user when you're trying to navigate and it reads. You'll see things like it'll read words together as if those words were run together with no space in between them. And it'll visually display that there is a space or that there is a line or that there is some space there. So that's how reading order works. So the accessibility assistant offers you some reading order options to achieve the best reading experience. So now the accessibility of a PDF will actually determine whether it is read in logical order or not. So a lot of times it's going to depend on how that PDF was created. Now the recommended setting that you'll see there in the accessibility setup assistant is infer reading order from document. So, you know, there you can it'll infer the reading order from how the document is set up. But there are other options there. And so if you're having trouble reading a document, you might try selecting one of them to see if you get a better result. And, you know, like I said, once again, it'll depend on how the document was created. So I'm going to go ahead now and share my screen. And let's try that again somehow. Okay. And I'm going to share JAWS, of course, so that you guys.
Screen share meeting. You are viewing a screen.
All right. Can you guys see and hear that? Because it just said something really kind of strange.
Yep, hear it.
Okay, great.
Sounds good.
All right, so I'm going to press the Windows key here, and I'm going to run Acrobat Reader. I'm not going to open a file yet.
Acrobat Reader DC app Acrob. Enter. Edit. Add left container view recent button checked. Insert F1 help.
All right, so like I said, the first time you install Acrobat Reader and you open it, it will run the accessibility assistant. But you can also get to it, like I said, it's in the edit menu. You're going to press Alt-E.
Alt-E, menu bar, context menu, edit menu, undo control.
I'm going to press Y for accessibility.
Change reading options, shift plus control plus 5 unavailable.
Now I don't have a document open, so that's unavailable. We have a couple options here, but I'm going to down arrow.
Setup assistant, S.
All right, could have just pressed S. All right, so I'm going to press enter on setup assistant.
Enter menu bar A, leaving menu bar accessibility setup assistant dialog. Set all accessibility options, radio button checked, 3 of 3.
All right, here we have 3 options. You can set all accessibility options.
Set options for screen readers, radio button checked, 1 of 3, Alt plus R.
We can just set the options for screen readers.
Set options for screen magnifiers, radio button checked, 2 of 3, Alt plus M.
Or we can set options for screen magnifiers. So, you know, if you're using magnification and JAWS, or if your student is using those together, you can go to set, you know, all of them. Or for right now, though, we're going to go up to for screen readers.
Set options for screen readers, radio button checked, 1 of 3, Alt plus R.
Okay, so like I said, we're going to tab through this dialog to see what the options are here.
Use recommended settings and skip setup button, Alt plus U from Jim Olson to.
Okay, so there is an option to skip the setup altogether. If you just want to go with what they recommend, you can do that and skip the setup. And of course, you can come back later and change it.
Cancel button, Alt plus C. Next button, Alt plus N. Set options for screen readers radio button checked.
So that's all we have here on that screen. So I'm going to go back up to next.
Next button, Alt+N.
And I'm going to press space.
Space. Accessibility Setup Assistant, Screen 2 of 4 dialog. Infer reading order from document. Recommended radio button checked. 1 of 3.
And here you notice it said screen 2 of 4. So we know that we're on the second, screen or page of results here. So this is recommended. It's infer reading order from document, but our other choices for reading order are, I'm going to down arrow through these.
Left to right, top to bottom reading order radio button checked. 2 of 3. Alt+L from Nolan.
Another one that you can use if you want to. If you're having trouble reading something and you want to try that one, you can always go and change it, and then you can change it back if that's not working.
Use reading order and raw print stream radio button checked. 3 of 3.
And there's your third option. So oftentimes I will try.
Infer reading order from document. Recommended radio button checked.
I will try this one just because it's recommended. And a lot of times it does work, but I have heard users say that the left to right, top to bottom also sometimes works. So, all right, I'm going to tab.
Override the reading order and tag documents checkbox not checked. Alt+O.
So if you have a tag document and you want to override that reading order in a tag document, you can check that if you want. I'm not going to check that, but I'm going to tab again.
Confirm before tagging documents checkbox checked. Alt+T.
All right, so confirm before tagging documents. We're going to tab again.
Cancel button, previous button, Alt+P.
And you could go back a screen if you wanted, or we can go to next.
Next button, Alt+N.
And I'll press space.
Space. Accessibility Setup Assistant, Screen 3 of 4 dialog. Read the entire document at once radio button checked. 2 of 3.
All right, this one's really important because sometimes you have really, really large documents like a textbook that may have, 500 pages or 1,000 pages or, however many pages. And so those documents take a long time to process, and there's a lot involved if you're reading them, to keep your place and things. So here you can choose to read the entire document at once, which means that you're going to be able to just press your up and down arrow keys and read all of the document. It's all going to be on your screen there. Or I'll press down arrow.
For large documents, only read the currently visible pages radio button checked. 3 of 3. Alt+F.
Now, if you have large documents there, and it'll know what it considers a large document. I'm not sure what the page cutoff is, but I've seen it do that for 50-page documents, things like that, where you read the just the visible pages, and then there's a keyboard command you can press to go to the next page. I believe I think it's control page down. And so when you do that, though, if you have a tagged document, and we're going to get into this here in just a bit, you don't really get all of those benefits of having a tagged document. So if it's a tagged document, you might just want to go ahead and read the entire document, but you may choose, again, that's just personal preference. You may choose to read large documents one page at a time.
Only read the currently visible pages radio button checked.
So that's going to choose only read the current visible pages all the time. So instead of just doing it for large documents, it's going to choose that setting for all documents.
Read the entire document at once radio button checked.
So I'm going to keep it there on that setting, and I'm going to tab.
Override page layout style checkbox checked.
And here it's going to override the page layout style, and it's going to invoke the settings that we choose.
Page layout combo box single page 1 of 4 Alt+L.
Here's our page layout. We have single page,
continuous 2 of 4, continuous facing 3 of 4, facing 4 of 4.
So here, if you had, it would be like two pages, facing pages in a book, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to
single page.
Go back up to single page because that's going to give you the cleanest reading experience there.
Override document zoom checkbox not checked. Alt+D.
We have a zoom feature.
Cancel button. Previous button. Next button.
And we're going to go to next with the space bar.
Space. Av left container view recent button checked. Insert F1 help. Accessibility setup assistant. Screen 4 of 4 dialog. Disable document autosave checkbox checked. Alt+A.
So here you can disable document autosave. I'm going to tab.
Reopen documents to the last viewed page checkbox checked. Alt+R.
Now that's a handy setting there because if you're reading a large document and you finish reading today and you're on page 50 and you open it tomorrow, you don't want to have to go back and find page 50. So if you set it to open at the last page that you were on, then it should automatically start reading there.
Cancel button. Alt. Previous button. Done button.
So I'm going to choose done with a space bar.
Space. Add left container view.
And there we are back in Adobe Reader. All right, so another place that we have settings is in preferences. And once again, you can access that with Control K.
Control K. Preferences dialog. Categories. Tree view. Search 23 of 30.
And here you have a lot of categories. You can change a whole lot of different things here. We have search. Let's just go to the top and try Control Home. I don't think that did it. Let's up arrow.
Level 0. Reviewing 22 of 30.
It didn't. There are just so many options, but I'm going to go back up here all the way to the top. Oh, I think I went too fast and it's not reading it to me now. Uh-oh.
PC cursor.
Here we go. Well.
PC cursor commenting.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Sorry. That was my fault. I went too fast. So we can down arrow. So let's choose documents here. I'm going to press the tab key.
Restore last view settings when reopening documents. Checkbox checked. Alt+R.
So there's a setting for restoring.
Open cross-document links in same window. Checkbox checked. Allow layer state to be set by user information. Checkbox checked. Allow documents to hide the menu bar, toolbars, and window controls. Checkbox checked.
So these are some pretty, picky little things here that you can go in and really fine tune if you want to. The ones that I find really useful, let me shift tab back up to this combo box.
Open, restore last view set, categories, tree view.
All right, so this is a tree view. So we have some categories here, and you can actually use what's called first letter navigation. So we could press the first letter of a category. I'm going to press R for reading.
Reading.
And then I'll tab.
Reading order combo box. Infer reading order from document recommended 1 of 3.
And there we have the reading order settings once again.
Override the reading order and tag documents. Checkbox not checked. Page vs document combo box. Read the entire document 2 of 3. Alt. Confirm before tagging documents. Checkbox checked.
So we have those same settings that we just had in the setup assistant.
Volume combo box 7.
Now here we get into like volume and other settings. That's if you want to use Adobe's built-in voice to read the document to you.
Use default voice. Checkbox check.
So we're not going to do any of that. I'm going to shift tab back up to the categories list and show you one more thing.
Volume. Override. Reading order combo box. Categories. Tree view. Reading 21 of 30.
So it says there are 21 of 30 different categories there. And there's just lots of stuff here you could go through.
Reviewing. Search. Security. Security enhanced. Signatures. Spelling.
So.
Identity. Internet.
All right, so I pressed letter I had to press it twice, and I got to internet. So here, if you tab.
How to set up your browser to use Adobe products to view PDF documents button.
There's something that, and I'm going to show you a different way to do this later because, but you can actually set whether you want Adobe to open a PDF or whether you want it to open in a browser here, and it's going to give you information about how to set that up. So I wanted to show that to you. So once you're finished in preferences, you can tab.
Allow speculative download. OK. Categories.
And there's an OK button, but we really didn't make any settings. So I'm just going to, or any changes, I'm going to press escape. But if we did, you would go to OK and you would press the space bar.
Escape. Add left container view.
All right, so we're going to see if you guys have any questions now. And I believe we have a
start screen. This will stop.
Polling.
Escape.
Yes, we do have a poll question.
Sorry, let me stop sharing here so you can talk. Okay, sorry about that.
No problem. We're ready to throw that question out there, Betsy Ann. Wanted to see if you followed along with one of the things Liz was showing you. So the question is, what is the keyboard command for opening the Preferences dialog box? We were just in there looking at all sorts of things. How do you open that with the keyboard? Is it Control plus P, Control plus Shift plus P, Control plus K, or Control plus Shift plus K. How do you open that preferences dialog? Which of those four gets you there? Betsy Ann, do we have any questions?
Apologies, took me a second to get off mute. We had a few questions come in, one that was answered in the chat, but just wanted to review with you, Elizabeth, and to share the information more widely during this webinar. Are the procedures similar for using Adobe Acrobat Pro 2017 rather than using Adobe Reader DC for setting those preferences?
You know, I really don't know, but I can find out for you. I don't have access to Adobe Pro, so I've never actually used it.
I do, and
do you?
yes,
Okay.
it's the same for those, because Adobe Pro is all about creating PDFs from Word docs and all that sort of thing. If you're just reading them, it's the same.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Good. I thought it should be, but I didn't want to commit to that without knowing for sure.
Great. And another question came in. If you pick facing, is there a JAWS command you need to use to access the pages, or is it a visual setting only?
It's a visual setting, but I think it might read. I've seen this happen where it might read across both pages. It shouldn't, but sometimes stuff like that happens. Once again, it really depends on how the document was created. And there is a lot of stuff to creating an accessible PDF document. There are a lot of details there. Paul, have you experienced that, or have you worked with that?
I haven't tried that setting.
We'll try it here in just a minute. We will try it and see what happens. I've seen things read okay, and then I've seen things not read so well. But we'll try that.
Awesome. Well, those are the only questions we have. Ooh, we just had another question come in. If you've got time to answer it, Elizabeth.
Sure, let's do it.
How do you prevent words from running together when reading PDFs with JAWS?
That is an excellent question. Well, sometimes you can change the reading order and see if that helps. Instead of infer reading order from document, you can try that left to right, top to bottom. And then sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, contacting the creator of the PDF and saying, yeah, you know what, this is really not accessible. But yeah, I've seen that a lot in textbooks, to be honest. When textbooks that have been created, you know, by an individual that have been made accessible, and, you know, grateful for the accessibility, but it can really make it difficult to read those. So.
All right, well, that's it for the questions right now. We've only had 47% vote in our poll. So please take another moment and look at that poll question. What is the keyboard command for opening the preferences dialog box? You've got 4 options. Great. And a comment came in the chat. Raw print stream gets me access when the other options fail.
Okay. All right. Good to know. You know, I've not actually, I think I've tried that one a couple of times. And once again, you know, it's just sometimes a matter of trying different things and seeing what works in any particular document. So yeah, that's really good to know.
Yeah, we had another question or comment come in about that question about words running together. Changing the reading order usually works well with preventing words from running together.
Yeah, it often does. I've had a few files that it just didn't, but a lot of times that will work. Change it from left to right, top to bottom, oftentimes, or the raw print stream.
Great. And we got a question in about JAWS and OCR, and I know that we're going to review that later, so I can save that question for when we go through that topic. So 51% have voted in our poll, and I'm going to read the response now. What is the keyboard command for opening the preferences dialog box? 15% said Control plus P, 20% said Control plus Shift plus P, 61% said Control plus K, and only 5% said Control plus Shift plus K. Elizabeth, what was the correct response?
Control plus K.
Excellent.
That one's a tough one because it's not a letter that's in the word preferences. So
you are right.
This is a tough
You'd
one.
have to spell it really wrong to get the K in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. You'd have to really spell it wrong.
All right, I'm going to end polling and hand it back to you.
Okay. All right, let's talk a little bit about tagged versus untagged PDFs and what tagged PDFs are. A tagged PDF will contain tags that provide a logical structure when you're reading a PDF, when you're reading them with a screen reader. So you won't have those reading order issues there. Tags identify types of content, things like headings, tables, links, things like that, just like you're on a web page. So you're going to navigate a tagged PDF as you would a web page. And a real advantage to this is that you can use those JAWS quick navigation keys to navigate. For example, if you have headings, you can use the letter H. Tables, there you can use the letter T. You could press Insert F7 to bring up the list of links. And just a few minutes ago when I said that if you have your document set to read the currently visible pages, that you may not have access to all, well, you wouldn't have access to all of those items. What I mean by that is if you're on a page that does not contain a link and you try to press Insert F7 to access the links in your document, it's going to tell you there aren't any there. And that could be a little confusing, but so yeah, you can navigate those using those JAWS quick navigation keys. And an untagged document can be read just like any other text document. You just won't have those tags. You won't be able to press H for headings and T for tables and things. Now, an untagged document will require processing when you open it in Acrobat Reader DC. So that's where it's going to come up with the start screen. And that start screen will display items that you can select, like your reading options and things like that. And we'll show that here in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again with you. And okay, here we go.
That screen. You are viewing this.
Okay, so I have, I'm going to Alt-Tab over here to files, a list of files.
Task switching, files, view modes.
All right.
Shell folder.
So let's look at an untagged PDF document first.
Notepad user manual v.1.0.1.
All right, this is a user manual for a little mixer, soundboard. So I'm going to press enter.
Enter. Notepad user manual v.1.0.1.pdf Adobe Acrobat Reader DC 32-bit reading order combo box and for reading order from document recommended 1 of 3.
All right, so here we have that reading order combo box, or we have this start screen that I mentioned. And the first thing is the reading order combo box. I'm going to leave it on infer from document. I'm going to press tab.
Read the entire document, radio button checked, 2 of 2, Alt plus D.
All right, and I want to read the entire document, even though it is a larger, it's not terribly large, but it is a larger document. So I want to go ahead and read the whole thing.
Do not show this dialog again. Use the settings from the reading preferences. Checkbox not checked, Alt plus A.
So if you check this right here, then when you open an untagged document, it's not going to show you the start screen. It's just going to open the document and then you can go in, to preferences and set your settings.
Start button, Alt plus S.
All right, so we're going to I'm going to press space on start. Let's start the processing.
Space. Notepad user manual v.1.0.1.pdf Adobe Acrobat Reader DC 32-bit processing page 4 of 44. And
I'm going to press control so that it won't read every single page it processes, but it is good information to have.
Processing page 20 of 44.
There we go. We know it's 44 pages long.
Processing page 25 of 4.
And
processing page 30 of 44. Processing page 34 of 44.
It's getting there. Now you can imagine how long this takes for maybe a 200-page document or more. And so that's why a lot of people probably prefer to read one page at a time.
Processing page 44 of 44 ... Progress bar 44%. Have page view. Document. Page has no links. Notepad user manual v.1.0.1. PDF registered. Notepad registered.
All right. So you notice it said page has no links here. We can just down arrow.
User guide. For Soundcraft Notepad 5, 8FX and 12FX graphic. Registered graphic.
And we could just read the document like we would any other. Now, let's go into the Setup Assistant. I'm going to press Alt
From Diana Smith
E.
to all panelists, it is nice to have progress. Alt E menu bar.
Yeah, progress is great.
Context menu.
It's good to know where
Undo
things are,
control,
how they're.
reduce shift.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to press Control. It wouldn't stop talking. Press Y for accessibility.
Accessibility submenu. Y.
And I'm going to
Change
down
reading
arrow.
option.
Oh,
Change reading. Setup assist. Change reading. Setup assistant.
some lag time there. I'm going to press Enter here.
Enter. A. Leaving menus. Accessibility setup assistant dialog.
So yeah, it is going to have those progress reports and to know what's going on the screen here. All right, so I don't want to change the reading order necessarily here, but I'm going to tab.
Use recommended settings and skip setup button. Alt cancel button. Set all accessibility up.
Oh, that's right. Let me choose.
Set options for screen magnifiers radio. Set options for screen readers radio button checked.
So I'm gonna choose for screen readers.
Cancel. Next button.
Go to
Space.
next.
Accessibility setup assistant. Screen 2 of 4 dialog. Infer reading order from document. Recommended radio button checked.
All right, that one seemed to be reading okay. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to tab.
Override the reading order and tag documents. Confirm before tagging. Cancel but previous. Next button.
Go
Space.
to next.
Accessibility setup assistant. Screen 3 of 4 dialog. Read the entire document at once. Radio button checked.
I'm going to leave that there. Read the entire document.
Override page layout style checkbox checked. Page layout combo box single page.
All right, let's choose
Continuous 2 of continuous facing 4 of 4.
Let's choose facing. I'm going to tab here.
Override cancel previous next button.
Go to next.
Space. Accessibility setup assistant screen 4 of 4.
And I'm going to go to done because I don't want to change anything else.
Cancel previous button. Done button. Space. For Soundcraft Notepad 5.
So let's see how this reads. I'm not sure. What do you guys see on the screen? Did it change the look of anything here, the appearance?
Elizabeth, can you say that again?
Did it change the appearance of how the pages look here, or does it still look like it did before?
Still looks like it did before. I can see your cursor right after the T in Soundcraft.
Okay. All right. So it didn't change the way it's displayed. So let's see how it reads.
Notepad 5, 8FX, 12FX graphic, information graphic, 3 graphic, information, 5 graphic. Important, please read this manual carefully before using your mixer. For the first time, this equipment complies with the Electromagnetic Compatibility Directive 2014/30/EU and LVD 2014/35/EU.
Okay, so I think it's going to read it just fine. But you can try changing that setting again. Let's go back in. I'm going to change it back to what it was. I'm going to press Alt E.
Menu bar. Menu, edit menu, undo control, change reading
go to
setup assistant, enter.
Setup assistant.
A, leaving menus, accept.
And then I know I'm going to press Alt N here.
Alt N, accessibility setup assistant, screen 2 of 5.
I'm going to go to screen 3.
Alt N, accessibility setup assistant, screen 3 of 5 dialog.
Now it's on screen 3 of 5, so this is interesting.
Override the reading, confirm before, cancel button, Alt plus C.
Because you didn't hit the screen reader option.
Yeah, you're right. It is exactly why. And I want to, you're right, because it has other settings for other things, and that's why, because it's for all of them.
Alt N.
So let's
go the entire document at once, radio button check.
Yeah, I forgot to hit that. All right. So
override page layout combo box single page 1 of 4.
Well, it's still on single page.
Continuous facing 3 of facing 4 of 4. Enter. Disable document auto save checkbox checked. Alt plus a done button. Space. This product is approved to safety standards IX 60065:2014.
So yeah, you can just play with those settings and see if it reads any differently. Sometimes it's confusing as a JAWS user to know. Sometimes you would know if it's trying to read 2 pages at once or read right across, because you're going to hear information that doesn't relate to one another. You know, but sometimes you're not really sure. And especially if it's a document that you've not read before. So sometimes it helps to, you know, to look at that, have somebody to look at that document and see how it's reading it. And you'll know if it's not reading it, you know, correctly, because it won't make a lot of sense.
From Sally Garlic to everyone, I don't feel so bad about having so much dealing. So,
okay. So now we're going to talk about, we're going to look at a tagged PDF. I'm going to press Alt F4.
Alt F4. Files, items, view.
And we're going to go down to
PDF webinar note. Prevent document, URL stop.
Oh, I'm going to go up
Not
to
select accessing PDFSR. 1 enter.
This PDF. Now, because it's tagged, we don't have that start
Accessing
screen
PDF
that we had.
documents with assistive technology. A screen reader user's guide secured Adobe Acrobat Reader DC 32-bit.
All right, so it opens here, or it will.
Accessing PDFSR.pdf document page has 60. Accessing.
Okay, so I shouldn't have stopped it there, but it was about to tell us how many links it had. It's going to act like a web page.
Accessing PDFSR.pdf.
So what you get here is the title at the top, and then if you down arrow,
heading level 1 accessing PDF documents.
You have the heading level 1, which is the title, and then you can just read the information.
Heading level 1 with assistive technology, a screen reader user's guide.
And you could just
heading level 1 contents.
Keep, you know, going down. Now, let's see if this contents is in the form of links here.
Link contents I. Link preface 1. Link purpose and intended audience 1.
So as we see here, we have links. We can use our down arrow keys to navigate through them. We could also press Insert F7 to bring up a list of links. And that's really important here with a tagged PDF, because if you wanted to read a certain topic, you could just press enter on that link and it would open up and go right to that topic. So I could down arrow.
Link contents 1. Link acknowledgements 1. Link Adobe Reader accessibility features 3.
Let's go here. Let's press enter.
Enter. Alternate text descriptions for figures, form fields, and links heading level 3.
And it's going to take us, you know, directly to that topic. And because, you know, we have different headings here, we can press the letter H.
Navigational aids heading level 3. Security that doesn't interfere with assistive technology heading level 3.
So it really speeds up how, you know, it speeds up the process of navigating that PDF, of reading that PDF. It gives you a structure that makes sense, which is really important if you're reading any document, but especially if you're reading a book. Depending on how that book is laid out, you can really get some great information there. So once again, you know, it just opens like a web page and reads like a web page. And so yeah, the document that I created as a handout was converted to PDF, and it is a tagged PDF. So you'll be able to press H to move right through each topic that we covered today. All right, so I'm going to close this and then see if you guys have any questions or comments.
Alt F4. Files, items, meeting controls. Alt S.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, sorry, Elizabeth.
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I was just going to say a lot of these settings, changing them, you know, sometimes I'm not absolutely sure what happens on the screen because every PDF is different. So, for example, with the page facing settings and things, once again, just try them and see what happens and see what reads the best.
Great. So a few questions came in.
Should we launch that poll real quick?
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's launch that poll, and people can answer that as they send out those questions. So this is a choose all that apply question. Which of the following are examples of content JAWS identifies in tagged PDFs? Does it identify headings, line spacing, tables, links, or color? Choose all that apply.
Great. So some questions that have come in. What command did you use to start reading?
Oh, just to start reading?
Yes.
Down arrow is what I used. You could use any of the JAWS reading commands. If you wanted to read continuously, you could press insert down arrow, or if you're on a laptop and you have it set to laptop mode or laptop keyboard layout, I mean, you could press caps lock down arrow and then control to stop the reading.
Great. Another question that's come in, can I change an untagged document to being tagged?
Not unless you had the, not unless you had Adobe Pro and you had the ability to edit that document. You would have to have a way of editing that document and tagging it. And if you want specific information on that, send us an email to training@vispero.com.
Great.
And we can get that information for you.
I'm dropping that email in the chat. A few folks are asking about the document that you're reviewing, the PDF about using this mixer, saying it sounds like a great document, and are asking you to share it. Is there a way that you can share the test document that we're looking at?
Yeah, actually, I downloaded that. I actually own that mixer and went in search of the manual. And it just happened to be, I mean, it's an untagged document, but it just happened to be accessible and it reads really well. So yeah, here in just a few minutes, I can get that link for you. And do you want me to put it in the chat, or?
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll grab that here in just a few minutes for you while we're answering the questions and things. Okay. And it just happened to be an accessible document. That's not always the case, as we know. But luckily it was.
All right, and we got some clarification as well from others. Share the accessing PDF doc with assistive technology, a screen reader's guide, please.
Okay, yeah, I will. I don't remember where I got that one. I'll have to go back and find that. I will do that though.
I think that's an Adobe.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is.
I may have it somewhere buried. I might be able to try to find it.
Yeah, I mean, I can, yeah, and it may have a link in the document. Maybe not. Yeah, that's a great document. I believe that is an Adobe document.
All right, and those are all the questions we had come in since our last poll question.
Okay.
And we've had 52% vote in our polls. Oh, and Naomi's just dropped a link in the chat from adobe.com.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Accessible PDF. So thank you so much, Naomi, for dropping that in the chat. All right, so this poll, while we're looking for that document, I can go ahead and share the results of the poll. For the question, which of the following are examples of content JAWS identifies in tagged PDFs? You guys said that JAWS can identify headings. 98% of you said that. 95% said tables. 100% said links. 17% said line spacing, and only 9% said color. Elizabeth, what were the correct responses for this question?
Headings, tables, and links.
Great. Awesome. I'm going to end polling. Hand it back over to you.
All right, I'm going to share. Yeah, I'll dig up this link here in just a second. I found it. I'm not sure where I got it from, but I will definitely share that with you guys. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is how you read a PDF, meaning whether you're going to read it in Adobe or you're going to read it in your browser. Now, a lot of times this is personal preference, but you can open PDFs in a web browser when, for example, if you're on the internet and you find a PDF and you press enter on that link, it'll open in your web browser, or you can choose to download it to your computer and just read it in Acrobat Reader. So, of course, when you're reading in the web browser, it's not going to have a lot of the accessibility features. You're not going to have that setup assistant. It will oftentimes read like a web page, but it can be a bit difficult to navigate. I've also found in a lot of situations, you can't copy and paste those like you can, in a regular PDF. So you may find difficulty copying and pasting information. Now you can set this option in Adobe or you can set it in the web browser. I like to do it in the web browser, but that's probably just personal preference. So I'm going to show you how to do it in Chrome, and I'm going to show you how to do it in Edge. So if you do it in Chrome, you're going to open settings and you're going to type in PDF, and you're going to go to site settings and then additional content and then PDF documents. And then there's a download PDF files instead of automatically opening them in Chrome, and that's going to be a button. And if this button is pressed, then it's set to download them. And if it's not, then it'll open them in Chrome. And you're just going to press space to change that. And then once you're finished, you can either press Alt F4 to exit Chrome, or you can press Control F4 to exit without actually closing the browser. And it'll save your changes automatically. Now in Edge, it's a little bit different, slightly easier. You open Edge, you go to settings and more, and you type PDF. And then you go to PDF documents, and then always download PDF files. There's a checkbox there. And if you check it, it will always download them. Or if you uncheck it, it will open in the browser. And then again, you just press Control F4 to close those settings without closing Chrome, or Edge, or just Alt F4 to close the program, and it'll save your settings automatically. All right, so I'm going to come back here for a second. I'm going to share my screen, and let's see how we can do this. All right.
You are viewing a screen.
Okay.
You have stopped Nikki Blank.
I think that worked, right?
From Regina Miller to all.
Yes,
panels.
we've got your okay. Notes up on the screen.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to open Chrome, and let's see here.
Search box edit. Google Chrome. Enter. New tab. Google Chrome. Tool.
And I'm going to maximize this so you guys can see it, hopefully better.
X, restore, R, close, C, restore, move on, size on, minimize, leaving menus, toolbar, address insert.
All right, so now I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to press Alt and the letter F as in Frank.
Alt F, context menu.
S as in settings.
Leaving menus, new tab, Google Chrome.
And it automatically opens up a search box here where I can type PDF.
PDF, banner region, search settings, escape.
All right, then I'm going to go to, I'm going to use a JAWS feature here called find, because I could arrow down or use other methods of finding this, but there's so many settings. Then I press Control F, and I'm going to type in site, S-I-T-E, because I know where I want to go. So I'm going to press S-I-T-E, or type that and press enter.
Site, enter, search set. Escape, link, subpage, button, cookies, and other site data.
Okay, so it didn't find it yet. So I'm going to press F3 to go to the next occurrence of the word site. And what it's doing is it's looking for occurrences of that word on this page.
Subpage, button, cookies, and other site data. Third-party cookies are blocked in incognito mode. Subpage, button, security, safe browsing protection. For subpage, button, site settings controls what information sites can use and show location, camera, pop-ups, and more.
All right, so what we want is site settings. Now, I could have just typed site settings and it would have found it right away probably, but so I'm going to go here. I'm going to press the space bar.
Space, settings, site settings.
All right, so the next place I want to go is additional content. So I'm going to use that find command again and press Control F.
Virtual find, JAWS find dialog.
And I'm going to type additional content and press enter.
Content, enter, additional content settings button collapsed.
All right, it said collapsed. So if I press space, it's going to expand that button.
Space, additional content settings button expanded.
All right, let's see what's under this. I'm going to press the down arrow key.
Subpage button sound allow site. Subpage button ads blocked on sites. Subpage button zoom levels. Subpage button PDF documents.
There we go. And I'm going to press space on PDF documents.
Space PDF documents. Subpage back button. Click to navigate away from PDF documents subpage.
And I'm going to down arrow here.
Heading level 1 PDF documents. Download PDF files instead of automatically opening them in Chrome. Toggle button pressed.
So now that this button is pressed, and notice it said toggle button, that means you can space to press it or space to unpress it, basically. So if you want to download documents instead of having them open directly in Chrome when you encounter a PDF document, which I do, I just press the space bar and it presses that button, and then it just automatically saves your settings. So I know that was a lot of steps there, but this information is in the handout and you only have to do it once. So if you can always change it later, but if you set it once, it's going to stay wherever you set it. So now I'm going to press Alt F4 to get out of Chrome.
Alt F4.
And go to Edge.
Search box edit. Microsoft Edge. Enter. App bar toolbar.
It's a little bit easier here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to press Alt F to go to File.
Alt F. Context menu.
And we're going to go to Settings and More with S.
Leaving menus. Edge / alert. Sync is on.
All right. I'm going to type PDF.
11 total results. 7 total results. Escape. Virtual.
All right. And
clear search button navigation.
I'm going to do a search for PDF. So I'm going to do Control F.
Virtual
here.
find.
PDF.
PDF. Enter. Search result match. Escape. Show mini menu when selecting text and PDFs. Search result match. PDF documents.
Okay. So PDF documents is what I'm looking for. And like I said, once you do a JAWS find, once you type it in once what you're looking for and press enter, you can then press F3 to continue navigating through those results. So I'm going to press space.
Space. Settings main region. Breadcrumb heading.
And there should be a checkbox here. I'm going to press the letter X to navigate through checkboxes.
Always download PDF files. Checkbox not checked. Search result match.
And I want to go ahead and check that because I want to always download them instead of having them open in Edge. So I'm going to press space.
Space. Always download PDF files. Checkbox not checked. Setting always download PDF files. Checkbox checked. Search result.
So at first it told me it was not checked, but it really was checked. And for those of you who may be wondering how I found that out again, I just press down arrow and then up arrow to go back up to it. You can also press, and actually I recommend you can read the current line. You can press insert up arrow.
Always download PDF files. Checkbox checked.
And sometimes when you press space, it takes it a second to catch up. So it's going to indicate that it's not checked, but you just always check it again to see if it's actually checked. And so now it's always going to download those files. Now, if you don't have Adobe Acrobat on your computer, it's going to usually try by default to open PDFs in Edge. All right, so now that I'm finished with this, I can press Alt F4 because I'm just going to save my settings.
Alt F4, Microsoft Word.
And then I'll go back over here and let's see if you guys have any questions.
All right, Elizabeth, a question came in. Which is the best, download or on the site?
That is really a matter of personal preference. I'll tell you why. Sometimes they display a little funny on the site. Now, if I'm just reading a document and I may not want to download it on my computer, I don't really know what it is, then, it could be helpful to read it on the site. But a lot of times, I may want to really dig into this document, and especially if it's a textbook. Now, I have noticed a lot of documents when they're on the site you can press H to navigate through them and things like that, and that is handy. But I've also noticed that if you needed some information and you need to copy and paste it, a lot of times, especially I've seen this in Chrome, you can't do that for whatever reason. It doesn't let you select and copy. So there again, it just really depends on what you're reading, what your personal preference is. You do get more control of your settings if it's in Adobe Reader.
Great. And Paul, are we ready for this poll question?
We are ready for it.
Great. I'm going to launch now.
And this is a true-false question. So true or false, PDFs can be opened in a web browser and in Adobe Acrobat Reader. True or false?
Great. And a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm looking up this file here, so I can get a link to this notepad, this PDF that we had a few minutes ago.
All right. Well, we've had about 50% vote in our poll. Elizabeth, we had a few more questions come in. Just let me know when you're ready to answer those.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off a minute ago.
No, totally fine. Would you suggest opening PDFs in Word by right-clicking them and selecting Open with Word?
I have done that before. And, another way to do that is to go to Word and choose Open and choose all files and open them from there. But yeah, that's a great way to do it too. Right-click them and open in Word. For the most part, that works great. Sometimes it may change some of the formatting, but if you're just really trying to read it, sometimes it's just a great way to get the information, and you can do that.
And another question came in. When does JAWS skip over content and lose focus in PDFs? How do you avoid that?
That is getting into development. That's a question I'm going to ask somebody who develops them, because there are, like I said, there are a lot of little details that are really, really important when you're creating them. And so if you will email training@vispero.com, I will get an answer for you. I don't know the technical information about that, but I'll get it and I'll send that to you. So just send me an email and I'll reply with that information.
Great. And I'll drop that in the chat again, that email, training@Vispero.
All right. I am also going to drop this link in the chat as well.
Oh, great. And another question came in. If you open a PDF in Word, can you edit as you read?
Yes.
Great.
Oh, whoops. I think I just sent that just to the panelists. Let me try that again.
I can drop it into the regular chat.
Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you.
If you get a document, though, let's say you have a document that you are reading in Word that's a PDF. You want to send it back to somebody else, though, that's probably not the best way to do it, because it is going to mess the formatting up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If it's something you're sending to somebody, if it's just, for you, that's fine. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely. It will change the formatting.
If you get a good fillable PDF, then you wouldn't have to do any of that. But if it's just something that people send out for you, do whatever you want. But if you got to send it back, it definitely wouldn't open it up that way.
No. And forms get really tricky because, there are a variety of forms that are, for the most part, accessible. I've found a few, there are, a couple tax forms that are really accessible, except maybe one field isn't labeled properly or something. But if you take that, like you said, if you take that out of Adobe and then you try to bring it back in, yeah, you're going to get some formatting issues there.
All right. Well, do we want to move on to more content, or we've got a final question that came in the chat?
Okay.
I'm always super anxious about missing content in PDFs by mistake due to inaccessibility. Any ideas?
There again, yeah, that is a concern. So if you think that there may be content that you're missing, or you just want to make sure that you're not, you might have someone who can see the PDF, look at it and just verify, different paragraphs or sections or whatever, whatever it is. Because yeah, that I can see where that is a concern for sure.
All right, well, let's keep rolling with the content.
Okay.
Oh, first I'll end
the polling question.
Yes. True or false, PDFs can be opened in a web browser and an Adobe Acrobat reader. 100% said true.
Absolutely.
We got everyone on that.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. So we're going to talk about the last thing, our last topic today, which is something you can try if you have a PDF that's not accessible. This feature is a Convenient OCR, and it's a JAWS feature. And it uses optical character recognition, or OCR, to read text and things like inaccessible PDFs and images. It'll read text in the images. And so Convenient OCR, like I said, uses optical character recognition. Those of you who have used scanners and OCR software before will be familiar with that. And it extracts the text from that image file, and it will place it in a JAWS virtual viewer. And that viewer is just a window where you can then read that text, and you can copy and paste it, or you can just read it. And then when you're finished, you can press escape to get rid of that window. Or we also have the ability, if you have Microsoft Word, to place that document in Microsoft Word, or place that text in Microsoft Word, open it directly to Word. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how this works now. I'm going to go over here and share my screen. And I lost my window, so let me try this again. All right, here we go. Okay.
You are task files.
So let's go back over here to files. Now I have a nice inaccessible PDF here, and I happen to know this isn't accessible, but for example, you're not going to know that right off the bat. So let's approach this from as if we don't know, and I'm going to press enter to open this document.
From rattle badge to all enter. NASA COVID infocomic.pdf Adobe Acrobat Reader DC 32-bit. From Michael Bryant to everyone. If you so not have Word, read the entire document. Radio.
All right, so this document isn't tagged. We know that because now we have this start screen, and I'm just gonna leave everything as is and tab to start.
Start button, space. NASA COVID info.
And it's gonna start processing the
Cancel
document.
Button,
like
processing
normal.
page 5 of 7. Progress bar 5. Alert, empty document dialog. This document may be a scanned image, which makes it difficult or impossible for JAWS or Fusion to read without first scanning the document with OCR. Would you like JAWS to OCR the document now? Yes button, Alt+Y.
Okay, so JAWS recognizes that, hey, this is not an accessible document. Now maybe we want to use Convenient OCR. So if I wanted to do that, I could press enter here on yes, enter or space. I'm not going to do that because I want to show you another way to access it. So I'm going to press down arrow to no.
No button, Alt+N.
And press space.
Space, add page view.
All right, so how do you know that you have an image file here? This is what happens when you try to read it. You press down arrow.
Alert, empty document.
And that's what you get.
Alert, empty document.
No matter what you press.
L, A, L.
Okay. Up or down arrow, or if you read it one word at a time, it still says
alert, empty document.
Empty document. All right. So it's not empty. Someone would not have probably sent you an empty document. So what do? You're going to use Convenient OCR with what we call layered command, which is a set of commands that you're going to press. You're going to use the layered command insert space.
Space.
And O is the command for Convenient OCR.
OCR.
And then we're going to press D for document.
Document OCR started.
So we use these layered commands to give you a way of performing several different tasks related to a specific thing. For example, Convenient OCR. There are several different keyboard commands you can use with that and different ways to use it. And you can get more information about that on our training pages, our What's New pages. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But it keeps you from having to do these long keyboard commands, difficult keyboard commands, or remember a ton of keyboard commands. So if you know that you press
this spectacular 6 matches found on.
All right. So if you press insert space, you get to the command layer. You press O for Convenient OCR and you press D. Then it does some processing. And you guys heard the little clicks there. And here we have the virtual viewer. So if I press insert T.
Title is NASA COVID Infocomic OCR results.
It says here's our results. So now I can down arrow.
Challenge areas. DMOM-M-.
Now this one didn't scan as well as I would have liked, but I'm going to press Control Home to go to the top.
Bullet.
And down arrow.
IDF-VSC. In this spectacular issue, NASA takes on COVID-19.
Now, this was actually a document I did have to use for something, and I was able to extract enough information out of it to get what I needed. But is another great example of, you know, this was definitely an image file. If I had to guess, it probably has a lot of graphics in it, and those graphics, you know, are going to affect the results. So you're not always going to get a perfect result, but sometimes it's a great way to see what a document is. And then if you need further clarification, or you need someone to, you know, scan it, not scan it as an image for it to be text, you know, to do that for you. All right, so if I read this information here, and if I tab,
open in Word, ...
it's a link. And so, sorry, I cut it off. I'll press insert up arrow.
Link open in Word, ...
So it said link. If I were to enter here, it would open Microsoft Word and would open this document in Word. I'm not going to do that right now because I want to show you a quick way of doing that right away. So I'm going to press escape to get out of this results viewer.
Escape, blank, NASA COVID
and I'm back here in my document. I'm going to press Alt F4.
Alt F4, files.
And I'm back in files. So if I'm on this document, which I'm going to verify with insert up arrow,
NASA COVID info comic 12.
I can press either Shift F10 or the applications key. Both are right click commands, right mouse click commands. So I'm going to press applications.
Applications, context menu.
And I'm going to down arrow through the options here.
Open, a print, P, share with Skype, picture smart with convenient OCR to Word with JAWS, I.
Now you notice it said convenient OCR to Word with JAWS, and it said I. So I could either down arrow to this option and press enter, or I could have just pressed the letter I after I did the applications key. The next option here is
convenient OCR with JAWS, O.
Convenient OCR with JAWS, which just brings it up in the results viewer that we were just in. So I could choose this, or I could press O. So that's another way of doing it. A third way,
escape, leaving menus, files.
If I'm on the document, I can press insert space to get into that command layer.
Space.
O for convenient OCR.
OCR.
And the letter R.
Document OCR started.
So it's going to start the OCR process, and it's going to go through these little clicking noises here. And then it's going to, when it finishes, open this up in Microsoft Word. Now, all these instructions, once again, are in the handout. So definitely check that out. If you guys have any questions, let us know.
We had a question about the layered command. It was at caps lock plus space, then O, then D.
Yes, caps lock if you're using a laptop.
Yes.
Caps lock space, which is your insert space, the letter O, and then D if you're in the PDF document. All right, so here it finished processing, and it should have opened this in Word. I'm going to do insert T.
Title is IDFVSC for Word, print view.
And if I press down arrow.
Level 0. Bull IDFVSC, and a spectacular issue. NASA takes on COVID-19.
And there we go. It's opened in Word. All right. So now let's see what questions that you guys have.
Meeting control, meeting Alt S.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the OCR question that came in earlier in the webinar. Does the JAWS OCR layered command sometimes work better if the words are running together, or should you use that only when the text will not read, i.e. empty document?
You could try that. I've never actually tried that on a document. I'm not really sure what result you would get. That's a really good question. I don't know. You could try that. But I would try the reading order, changing the reading order first. Change it to left or right, up or down, or try that raw print stream first and see what that does. Because convenient OCR, you know, it may do that. I'm not really sure if that would work, but it'd be worth a try. But it's mostly for extracting the text, you know, that it finds in an image file. I don't have a document that's running the words together. I'd try it right now. That's a good question.
Right. So other questions about OCR. So this is obviously a JAWS webinar, but do you know if convenient OCR is available in other screen readers like NVDA?
I don't believe so. Other screen readers may have their own OCR that I'm not aware of, but no, I think this is something that, you know, we've built into JAWS, and we, you know, continue to develop as we go along. So.
Great. Do you have to stop the OCR? Just as you would start it, do you have to turn it off?
Oh, great question. No, it will finish on its own once it's finished. And sometimes, you know, once it completes the process, it'll finish. And sometimes it may take a while. You know, if it's a really long, so if it's going to be a long document, or if it's really trying to process, it's having trouble processing. So sometimes that's why we have those progress clicks, just to let you know that, hey, something's, you know, going on here. It's processing this document.
Great. When you were in the document, after the layered command sequence, did you press Insert plus T? And if so, why?
I pressed Insert T to verify that it had actually opened in Word.
Great.
And that reads the window title. That'll read any window title that the title of whatever window you're in.
And for our webinar audience member who asked about OCR and NVDA, we had someone in the chat share that you can OCR a document with NVDA if you have Microsoft, or if you have Windows 10 and Microsoft OCR engine installed. However, it's not the same level of convenience like with JAWS, and it has less functionality. So.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I was aware of some other OCR, but I wasn't sure how that worked. And, you know, like I said, other screen readers may have some functionality there. But yeah, this is definitely, you know, Convenient OCR. We've had this feature for a while. It's definitely one that we've, you know, continued to add to, for example, giving you the ability to open it right into Word. And I'll tell you why I really like that feature. Several reasons, but, you know, if you're just going to read a PDF and you just want to know what it is, opening it in the results viewer is great. But if you want to be able to save and actually edit information there, yeah, opening it in Word works really well for that.
Great. So one final comment. I believe that Convenient OCR will fail to start if text already exists.
Yeah, I think it will. That's what I thought, because it'll recognize it's not an image. So you are correct about that.
Great. And as for the question about the handouts, I'm going to drop the link to our handout for the APH Access Academy. We have the handout provided there, and I'm also going to reinsert the Adobe Accessibility PDF so that you have those conveniently in the chat. But I think we've gotten to all of the questions. If I missed yours, please share it again in the chat, but I think we've gotten to everything.
And just to let you know, I did just test that document, or the OCR, on text that already exists. And it acted like it tried to, but then it came up with an interesting, yeah, so you can try it and it may give you differing, but it came up for some reason and said this document requires a password, which of course a document doesn't require one to read. So yeah, if you have a document like that where the text is running together, you probably will not get a positive result out of that. I would use those reading order settings.
Great, thank you for that. All right. So let's go through our last slides, and if we've then got time for more questions, we'll certainly share those with Elizabeth. If not, we've dropped the training@vispero.com email.
All right, so we're ready to talk about what we've discovered today. The Accessibility Setup Assistant allows you to set preferences for reading PDFs with JAWS, and that is for screen readers, that's for magnification, and there's quite a bit there that you can play around with and see how they work. Tagged PDFs can be navigated using JAWS quick nav keys, just like you would navigate a web page. You can navigate those. Convenient OCR can help read inaccessible PDFs. Now, just in case you're out there and you hear this and think, well, then I can just send anyone a scanned PDF and not worry about it. No, this does not replace the need to make your documents accessible. The fact that somebody has a way to bail you out if you send them an inaccessible PDF doesn't mean that you're less responsible for sending an accessible PDF. It's great for an emergency. It's great for reading something quickly, but it definitely doesn't take the place of making accessible PDFs. But it's still a wonderful tool. And finally, if you need JAWS or Zoom text, don't forget we do have the portal available for licenses. An annual JAWS license is $90 per year. An annual Zoom text license is $80 per year. If you need help getting those, contact APH customer service. We'll make sure that you have a way to get those and you know how to find them. And we can get you started if you need a license for one or both of those pieces of software.
And thank you, Paul, for wrapping us up.